Today's speaker is Trang Dang from the Humane Society International. Trang graduated from RMIT University, specializing in commerce and marketing, but she chose to follow her passion in animal protection by working with NGOs advocating for animal welfare. Currently, she's the Food Policy Manager for Southeast Asia at the Humane Society International, where she is in charge of HSI's Plant-Based Solutions Program. She works to raise awareness, build capacity, and highlight the benefits of eating plant-based foods for the environment, for health, and for animal welfare. At HSI, she works closely with institutions such as schools, universities, catering companies, factories, and hospitality businesses across the region to help them adopt plant-based initiatives. Humane Society International is one of the world's largest international animal welfare organizations. It works around the globe to promote the human-animal bond, rescue and protect dogs and cats, improve farm animal welfare, protect wildlife, promote animal-free testing and research, respond to natural disasters, and confronts cruelty to animals in all its forms. The title of Trang's talk is Working with Institutions, How to Effectively Adopt Plant-Based Initiatives. So, thank you very much. Trang, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, George, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today. I know it's a Sunday, and really appreciate everyone to spend a little bit of time with me. George explained and introduced me so well, as well as Humane Society International. So my name is Trang. I am from Vietnam. I'm based in Vietnam right now. And I'm working at Humane Society International in charge of HSI plant-based program. And in my sharing in my talk today, I will share with you a little bit about how HSI has been working specifically in the region of Southeast Asia, as well as a little bit around the globe in our plant-based program. How do we approach institutions such as schools, universities, catering companies, and start that conversation about decreasing the amount of animal products they are serving and replacing them with plant-based ones. So George has already introduced Humane Society International and what our work is about. I would just like to note a little bit in the Farm Animal Protection Department, which is the department that I work for. So in our Farm Animals Department, we have two main programs. The first program is on corporate outreach on higher welfare system. So specifically, that's to work with companies, institutions to ask them to move towards higher welfare system like cage-free or crate-free and staying away from the cruelty animal agriculture systems that we know, like battery cage and gestation crates. And at the same time, we are always working with companies and institutions to push for our plant-based program as well. So these two programs always go hand in hand. So for the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll share with you what is HSI Plant-Based Solutions Program about, what are the tools that we've been using and working with institutions to help them adopt different plant-based initiatives, and how have we been able to look at the data and measure our impact to really see that the program works. And then I would really like to hear from the participants. So I would like to break out the participants into groups so we can discuss, depending on your country and where you're from, what do you think would be the best tools and approach that would work with the institutions in your country to get them to be interested and to adopt certain initiative. And I would just like to share that as myself as a vegan, I understand that it's really hard for us to have a conversation with someone and try to tell ourselves not to tell them to go vegan today, because that's something that we believe in, that's our values. But so far in my experience, I've noticed that when we step into a conversation, let's say with an institution or with someone, and they are interested in the issue, sometimes it's better just to ease in and introduce to them, the benefits of veganism, the benefits of a plant-based diet for all of the different reasons, and give them the tools so that they can then go about adopting more plant-based options. And when I go more into my talk later, I will share with you that it works, and throughout our work at HSI, we've been able to measure the impact in our work. And of course, at the end of the talk, if you have any questions, want to get in touch with me afterwards, I will be happy to answer. When we talk to institutions and when we start a conversation about why there's a need for us to have more plant-based options. And when I say to have more plant-based options, it's not just to add in plant-based options, it's to replace the current animal-based options with plant-based ones so that we can see a decrease in the amount of animals being raised and killed for human consumption. And so the three main reasons that we always advocate for our plant-based program are around animal protection, about human health and the environment and sustainability. One of the things that I've noticed is really useful when we talk to an institution or basically just anyone is to tap into the area that they have already been interested in or have already had existing initiatives. So for example, some of the schools that I've been working with in Vietnam, they currently already have certain sustainability things that they cover. So for example, the schools are not using single-use plastic, or some schools are celebrating UN Sustainable Development Goals. So for these certain institutions, what I do is I would tap into the environmental aspect of veganism, of a plant-based diet, and encourage them to incorporate more plant-based options as a way to expand and emphasize on their sustainability concerns and initiatives. And then, for example, with some other institutions that I've worked with, which care a lot about the well-being of, let's say, the factory workers at the factory, or the well-being of the students in a university, then I would usually tap in and focus the message of the program more on the health benefits of veganism, of eating more plant-based foods. So just to say that it depends on the audience, it depends on our approach and our target that we would shape the message of our program. But usually it involves these three main reasons. I don't think I need to go into details about these ones because this is the perfect audience that I'm talking to already. And specifically a little bit more about the goal of our program. So when I talk about working with institutions, that includes schools, K-12 schools, universities, food service companies that does catering for schools, university, factories, food and beverage industry like hotels and restaurants, healthcare sectors, among others. And what we do is we start a partnership, or we start a conversation with them, and we ask them to adopt a minimum amount of 20% reduction of animal products procurement over a 2-year period. So just to give you an example to clarify this point, the 20% reduction that we are talking about can either be a 1 full day per week for, let's say, a school to serve only vegan plant-based foods. So we are doing this program in Vietnam. It's our Green Monday Vietnam program, as well as our Green Monday South Africa program, among some other programs at HSI. So in this case, the 20% is measured by 1 day per week out of the 5 days that the students go to school, in which all of the options at the cafeteria would be completely vegan and plant-based. So that is one way that we carry out our program. Another way, which works better for some other institutions, such as hotels and restaurants, because it's a bit trickier to do it fully 1 day per week, is just to look at their current menu and work with them to replace current animal-based options with plant-based ones. So let's say taking a current beef patty burger and replace that with a veggie burger, in order to reach a 20% reduction. And I will talk a little bit more about this percentage and how we are able to measure it a bit later in the talk. So this is just an example of how we work with food service companies. So Sodexo, one of the world's largest food service provider. So HSI have been working with Sodexo in the US, in Canada, and I'm working with Sodexo as well in Southeast Asia, among some other countries that my that my colleagues are working with. So essentially the partnership is about working with them, incorporate more plant-based options in their operations so that when they serve at their client sites, that would reach a certain plant-based initiative that we agree upon. And the way that we go about working with institutions in terms of the tools that we offer. So one of the main programs which have been really well received and really helpful that we offer to our partners are free of charge culinary training, because we all understand that food is something that can get people excited, and especially we want to put a very positive spin on our program in the sense that doing either a full day per week completely vegan or just having more vegan options as replacement for animal-based options are something that is great for our health, for the environment, for the animals, and the food tastes good. So throughout these culinary training that we offer for our partners, we have a group of consultant plant-based chefs at HSI. So our chefs would go into the kitchen with the chefs at our institute, at our partners. So for example, if we're working with a school, our chef will be working with the school's chefs to teach them how to cook different vegan options, help them plan for menus, and help them promote these options as well to the students and the teachers. Among others. So this is an example of one school that I've been working with in Vietnam since last year. They've been doing Meatless Monday almost 100% vegan for almost a year now, and it's been going really well. So similarly with this school that we've worked with, we went into the kitchen with them, we showed them how to cook vegan food that are exciting, delicious, fit with the preferences and the budget of the school, and just something that is positive that people can definitely get excited on every Monday. And then some of the other tools that we offer are leadership summits. So these are targeted more towards the manager at different food service companies and different groups. So it's essentially to talk about the benefits of eating plant-based foods for the animals, for our planet, and for our health, and then addressing some of the different marketing communications tools that we can use in order to promote for these options at certain institutions. We also have a group of nutritionists that work specifically on the nutrition side of the recipes and the menu and the ideas to make sure that the institutions understand that a balanced vegan plant-based diet is not compromising on anything for our health. If not, it's better for our health. So that's on the side specifically on nutrition. And here are just a few examples of the previous training that we've done around the world. So my colleagues in Brazil, they have a partnership with different institutions there as well. And it's always really great to see the feedback of the chefs and the participants after the training. People have I think a lot of people have certain perception about vegan food as being boring, or, you know, it's boiled vegetables and fried tofu. But having this training and having these recipes being shown to the chefs really make them see vegan food in a very different way. And so getting people excited about great new vegan items and vegan options to incorporate into the menu at the institution is the first step, which is, I think, one of the most important steps to really drive our plant-based program forward. And we also have specific trainings that are on vegan desserts. This is targeted more towards the hotels and the restaurants that have specifically asked us for support in this case. And it's similar with desserts. It's really great to see the chefs giving us feedback afterwards that they cannot imagine that aquafaba, the chickpea water, which is usually a byproduct after making hummus, for example, can be turned into like the creamiest and fluffiest egg white replacement. And that also speaks to giving them different ideas and different ways that they can even save costs on serving more vegan options at the institutions. And so that's on the capacity building, that's on the, offering seminars and workshops and trainings to the chefs. And then on the other pillar of our program is in terms of awareness raising. So through our educational programs. So we host workshops, seminars, we participate in events at schools and universities, basically just be there for our partners and address the importance of why we need to have more vegan and more plant-based options and replace the current animal-based options if we want to really address the concerns that we have for our environment, for our health, and for the animals. And most of the time, the feedback that we've received from our partners have been really positive. I think, and again, this speaks to when I said at the beginning, when I say that as a vegan, I think it's hard for us to not push the message that, go vegan. But in this way, we are kind of like nudging them a little bit into, starting out with, let's say, once a week or a few more meals per week, and then build on that momentum. And I think the importance is just to make them understand why we are promoting for such a change, and the fact that it's a positive thing that can create a positive impact, especially when it's being done in an institution or a community like a school or a university or a workplace, so that it's a community effort that can really create an impact that we can measure. And one thing that I just want to quickly touch base on is in terms of promoting for plant-based vegan options. So when we work with institutions, we always receive feedback and concerns from them asking us how do they get the students or the people going to the restaurants to be excited about these vegan options that they will be rolling out. And so we usually have 5 tips in order to integrate new vegan and plant-based options into the menu. So the first one is to make it sound good. I don't think anyone would disagree with me on this. Something that is like boiled vegetables and fried tofu would not get people excited, but something that is more exciting to just describe the food. For example, on the slide I'm showing you, butternut squash with rice and greens. Okay, but how about roasted butternut squash stew in like a sauce with spicy dressing and things like that, just to see the name on the menu as something that stands out is already getting people a little bit more excited about the option. So this is something that we do as well with the schools that we work with. We have like usually like a little sign next to the option with the names of the option. And sometimes we even put specific information such as if you choose this option, you are saving, X amount of water, X amount of land, X amount of pollution emitting into our environment, and things like that, just to get people excited for the option. And then obviously the second tip is just to make it look as appealing to people as possible. So I don't think anyone would want to eat that burger on the left. It's not even a burger. That's like a really bad photo. But yeah, just presenting the vegan options as something that are appealing to people and getting people excited about the option. And then tip number 3, which is something that I think is really useful, is just to make the vegan options a normal thing and don't put it in a separate corner at the end of a menu book or like in a separate corner in the cafeteria as the boring vegan option. Put it in, so when we, for example, when we work with the school in the cafeteria, let's say they will have 10 different options per day. And for some of the schools that are not doing a full vegan plant-based day a week, what they do is they just have more vegan options daily. So then the vegan options are usually put together next to non-vegan options, so they are not standing alone in a corner or standing alone in like a salad bar, so that it gets more, let's say, more space for people to see, and it's just being presented as something that is just like an option. It doesn't have to be labeled as the vegan option that stands alone. And then tip number 4 is to get people to gain something. Maybe this is a bit strange, but like get people excited about the food, but also get people to gain something from it. So for example, some of the hotels and restaurants that we've worked with, they are offering, let's say, a 10 to 20% discount on vegan options if people would choose these options on specific days in the week, so that give them like a little bit of incentive to eat more vegan options. And the last one is to promote it as much as possible. The photo on the left is of some vegan options in Japan when I was there last year. I think this is T10. Yeah, it's the T10's vegan ramen, which I love a lot. So yeah, just having like different posters, different infographics being presented around, let's say, the school campus, in the cafeteria, posting about it on social media, preparing for the launch of a new vegan menu or new vegan ideas and options at certain institutions, getting people fully aware and understand the benefits of why the institution is committing or adopting certain plant-based initiative, so that when the options are there, that they are delicious, they look good, they taste good, people will generally, naturally go for it. After everything that I've shared, the next part I want to focus on is how we've been able to measure our impact. Because at HSI, we believe that it's important to be able to gather data that we can look upon and understand what sort of impact we've been able to create when we work with institutions on these programs. And so what we do is we have a procurement data tracker that I will share with you in the next slide. And when we, let's say when we work with a school at the very beginning, we would ask them to help us gather their current data. This is the example of the tracker. So in the very beginning, when they work with HSI, maybe they don't have any current vegan options yet, or they may already have some, but what we would ask them to gather for us are data of the current amount of animal products that they are currently procuring and buying. So, you know, let's say how many kilograms of meat, eggs, and dairy products, and then starting from that baseline 10, moving forward every 6 months, every 12 months that they've been working with HSI and rolling out these new plant-based options. And again, I emphasize that plant-based options here are not just adding in, but to replace current animal-based options, to really emphasize on a decrease in animal-based options that they are serving. So then we'll be able to look at the data, let's say after a period of 2 years, and hopefully see a decrease in meat, egg, dairy products that they are serving and procuring, and an increase in plant-based ones. And so we'll be able to gather these data and measure our impact. So from certain data, such as these procurement data, we'll be able to measure the amount of animals that we've been able to save. Let's say for a period of 2 years, working with this one school, with every single meal, every Monday at the school being completely vegan and plant-based. How many, you know, greenhouse gas emissions we've been able to save, tackling in that sustainability initiative that certain partners and institutions are very interested in. And we also look at the number of trainings and the number of chefs that we've been able to work to, just as a way to spread the program out. And this is an example of the Meatless Monday campaign over a period of 5 years in the United States. So the Humane Society of the United States is Humane Society International's parent organization. So throughout a period of 5 years, they've been working with more than 263 school districts and converting as much as 399 million meals into meatless or almost vegan and plant-based. They have been able to calculate the numbers of animals that were saved, the number of carbon dioxide that has been not emitted into our environment, and as well as greenhouse gas savings. So these statistics are really important in my opinion, because it goes to show that every meal counts. It's really easy to say that, you know, maybe one meatless day a week would not matter. Maybe, but when it's being done in an institution, in a community, and everyone understand why such initiatives is being done, and, you know, understand the benefits that the vegan plant-based diet is for our health and the environment and the animals, then it will really create a positive, measurable impact. So I don't think that any of us would disagree that, you know, yes, maybe one meal wouldn't matter so much, but every meal counts in the long run, especially when it's being done with a community in an institutions. And so I think I'm almost getting there to the end of my talk. So one thing I want to touch base on is the fact that at HSI, we started our plant-based program in Southeast Asia just from the beginning of last year. And then the whole pandemic happened. So, so a lot of stuff that we've been working on and planning have been put on hold or postponed. But I am in charge of the program in Southeast Asia, and we've been working mostly in Vietnam, in Singapore, a little bit in Malaysia, and we're just starting our work in Japan. So I'm always looking for volunteers or anyone who would like to bring our HSI plant-based program to either the school or the university that you're working, that you're studying at or working at, or if you happen to know an institution that are interested in adopting a program, or interested in maybe just learning about having more vegan or plant-based options in their workplace or in their institution, please get in touch with me. I would love to continue the discussion, and if it's possible to bring the program to where you are or to the institutions that you know or work with. So I think now I would love to hear from you. So I was thinking that we could get the breakout group discussion in the same headspace that throughout my talk. So we're talking specifically about working with institutions, but if you have any other ideas, maybe not towards institutions, but towards individuals or communities, I would love to hear them as well. I would like to get everyone to just discuss, depending on the country where you're from, how is the scene of vegan options or plant-based options there, and specifically with institutions like schools or universities and things like that. Are there any current vegan options? Are there interest in adopting more or having more vegan options? And like just having, just to get an idea of where the baseline and where are we working with, starting with. And then I would like to hear from your opinion, what do you think would work best, like strategies or approaches that you would think would work with certain institutions in your country? Because that's a learning experience for me as well when we plan our program in the region, because each country is a little bit different. So it would really be helpful for me to learn from you as well, depending on where you're from. And that is it for my talk. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Great. So we've got Kate representing other countries too.
Hi everyone. So I think so I'll be the spokesperson for other countries. So the other countries that we have is, I'm representing for Philippines. We have someone from Nepal and two from Malaysia and one from India. From the questions like, what strategies or approach would you suggest for institutions that work in your country? So we have discussed some of the things. So I think firstly on Nepal, some of the approach that was mentioned to be okay was on terms like connecting veganism to sustainability and environment. So most people would really agree on that message. And second for Malaysia would be on incorporating some of the social events, for example, like having like a vegan wedding parties would be also like a good way to shifting those norms that we usually have. And also like encouraging hotels or restaurants to cater for vegan options. So whether it be like providing discounts or having them on their menu. And then also for the Philippines, it would be, it's in the Philippines right now, the vegan is kind of emerging. So we do have like small scale vegan restaurant or owners. So what I usually see, it would be beneficial if the government actually or institution would support more of this. So whether it be like getting them like a startup funding, whether for them to have more people involved in their businesses, or whether it be like helping them get their products in the large scale supermarket. I think that would be helpful in getting more options. And one thing that is interesting that Malaysia has mentioned is when it comes to like one of the example that we chatted is about the rabbit production that is actually being funded now by Malaysia, and actually in the Philippines it's now also like emerging. So it's also good that if the government would be funding more on the plant-based option, less on the meat production. And last thing would be on the religion. For some of one example would be on the Malaysia. I think since Malaysia have different like 3 races, it also like hard for the government to cater for all of this. And I think most of the policy that they have is like kind of neutral or at the same time generalized.
Amazing, Kate. Thank you so much for sharing all those ideas. It's a lot of ground and really interesting. Trang, would you like to comment now, or we have a representative from a Japan group who's ready to share as well?
I think we can listen to everyone sharing, and then I'm taking notes, so I will get back to the points after everyone share.
Great. So we've got Yuki from a Japan group.
Yeah, so the institutions we thought of were school lunches, where there's virtually no options at the moment for most schools, and no plant-based options, and hospitals. And as far as, well, we're not sure what the options are like in hospitals, and also college cafeterias. There in cafeterias, I know of, there are some universities that do offer plant-based options like vegan curry, like Waseda University, for example. And it was mentioned that there's also currently like a program called Tables for Two, where you can choose to donate, make the reservation so that some of the funds go to poor children overseas. And so that's not plant-based, but similar approaches could be taken to promote plant-based meals. Other institutions would be cafeterias in companies, and yeah, we couldn't think of companies who offer plant-based options, but there must be. For example, like some health-conscious companies like Kanita, who makes scales for measuring your weight, and those companies who are more conscious about environmental issues, like renewable energy companies. Some of our group members actually run their own private restaurants. As far as the approaches, yeah, we thought that in Japan, it's very difficult to approach and propose things as individual. It'd be better to have a group of people, or even better would be approached as an organization like Humane Society International. There do exist some parent groups who work to try to, for example, like get milk out of school lunches, or at least have the option to reject milk. Another point in approaching would be to promote the health aspect instead of going straight to animal issues. Health aspect, or something that makes you beautiful, beauty things. And so, yeah, we were all wondering, it's probably best in Japan to start from health and environmental issues, but whether or not to mention animal issues in the program, we weren't sure. We would like to, of course. And finally, with Olympics and things, could be leveraged to promote more plant-based meals. But it's hard to get people in Japan to choose such options for animal welfare or animal issue concerns. But many prefectures want to promote their local businesses, so that could be one way to, like, if we can promote local like businesses who do make plant-based food, that could be one way to take advantage of that.
Thank you so much for sharing all your ideas. Trang, do you have any feedback?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Kate and Yuki, for sharing the group ideas with me. So a few things that I want to touch base on. So first of all, I've seen in the chat that you guys are recommending me to get in touch with Veggie Project Japan. I like to share that we actually have a working partnership between Humane Society International and Veggie Project Japan. We started talking to them last year, and we were supposed to organize a seminar for universities in Japan, specifically mostly in Tokyo and nearby prefectures, in April this year. That was our original plan because we were going to participate in a premium food show in Japan, also in April, to have like a booth and a side event to talk about our program. But obviously, because of the pandemic, all of that is being put on hold. So we're still working with Veggie Project, and we actually have a program and a plan in place, and we're working on it now to hopefully be able to roll that out next year, depending on how things move forward with the pandemic, if it's possible to travel, if possible to do things in person. But if not, then we will probably move the seminars and the programs that we plan to online platforms instead. And also just to share with you a little bit more with this partnership, we've also been looking into working with the government, specifically the Tokyo government, because there was an article that I read about the Tokyo government talking specifically in terms of trying to make Tokyo more sustainable and reaching like a lower carbon footprint. So that's also something that we are looking into as well, because like what Kate mentioned earlier, working with the government and having government funded more plant-based options, so talking it in terms of policy is something that is very important, and that's definitely something that is in our radar. So thank you for all of the comments and the messages about Veggie Project. I love them, and yeah, really looking forward to doing more work with them in the near future. And then Kate, I want, if it's possible after our talk, I would like to put you in touch with my colleague in the Philippines who is working on our plant-based program, because just last week, HSI hosted a 2-day online event with certain Manila-based tourism department talking about the benefits of plant-based diet, and that was an event that was targeted towards mostly the food service industry, like hotels and restaurants. And then it was also followed by a plant-based culinary training demonstration of HSI chefs for the participants. So I know that my colleague recorded the conference, and I think he would be happy to share with you. So please email me afterwards, and I can share some of the resources that we have for the Philippines specifically that could be helpful. And then Yuki, when we were talking about Japan, that's exactly what some of the issues that, not issues, but yeah, some of the challenges that I faced when we started to look into doing plant-based work in Japan. It's a tricky country, but there's a lot of potential, and also because I just feel like it needs to be more mainstream. There needs to be more organizations working on this issue in Japan. So yes, so for example, with the university, as I've mentioned just briefly, we are planning to work with universities. So we are planning for that online seminar. But last year, I also have several conversations with Waseda University and Sophia University in Tokyo. Sophia University has already been having a few vegan options, and that's by working with Veggie Project. So we are working on building on that to spread it out to more universities in Tokyo and in Japan in general. And I'm also starting to work with a few catering companies that are based in Japan and talking with a few schools as well there. So hopefully we'll be able to get the momentum going and be able to do more work. It was just really difficult because of the pandemic, and I wasn't able to come and work directly with the chefs in the schools there. But hopefully we'll be able to get out this soon. And one thing about Japan that I also want to mention is that it seems like there's, with the government specifically, there's an interest in promoting for vegan options and plant-based options with a tourism perspective. So it's kind of like to attract more tourists coming to Japan, to say that Japan is now more vegan and plant-based friendly. And I'm thinking that's definitely one way to look at it, specifically with the Olympics and other international events. But I would also want to do it in a way that is not just to attract tourists, it's also for the local, the Japanese, the people living in Japan. And so if you have any additional ideas or, you know, anything that would be helpful for me to know in terms of background information or context or whatsoever, I would love to hear more and continue the discussion so that when we plan for our program in Japan, it would be as useful and as possibly successful as possible. I think these are the notes that I have from the sharing from Kate and Yuki. So yes, thank you so much for the discussion and for these great ideas.
Thanks, Trang. That's great responses. I think we have another contribution from Anne from the Hong Kong group.
Hi everyone, I'm Anne from Hong Kong. So from the group, we just mentioned about, we have a Green Monday Hong Kong company. They are both social enterprise and also they own vegan restaurant across Hong Kong as well. So they have both the commercial side and also the more like the social enterprise kind of side. We thought Green Monday would be good, or might be a potential party to reach out to initiatives and to reach out to schools or even companies or even hospitals to do more like a Meatless Monday or Green Monday project. But they're really well connected for Green Monday. They're really well connected. They've reached out to a lot of different big chain restaurants, for example, McDonald's, KFC, and Fairwood in Hong Kong. But at the same time, we thought Green Monday might be a more commercial kind of person or party to talk to other groups, because at the same time they're promoting the green or vegan lifestyle, but at the same time they sell their products. So we think it might be better to have a non-commercial party to do this kind of promotion things. For example, for promoting vegan lifestyle seminars at school, or providing more vegetarian or vegan options on campus, or even promoting more Green Monday menu in the hospitals, or even companies with cafeterias for employees. So something like less commercial and more like a social enterprise or NGO kind of point of view. Yes.
Thank you, Anne, very much for your contribution.
Right. Thank you.
Trang, I've got one more contribution, but it's written in text, so I'm going to read it out. So this is from Claudia from Other Countries One. And Claudia says, my experience so far in South Korea is that influencers, celebrities, and social media is one of the most effective ways of promotions here. A lot of people started trying Beyond Meat products, and now in a lot of supermarkets, there are vegan sections. But the biggest issue, I think, is the lack of knowledge about what veganism is. That's from Claudia, Other Countries One.
Great, thank you so much, Anne and Claudia, for your contribution. And I know Green Monday, they are an amazing social enterprise and company. We've also had several discussions with them because they started to have a Singapore office for their Southeast Asia outreach as well. So yes, that's also another sort of like partner that we've been working with as well. So yes, let's say, for example, working with schools, and if the school is interested to maybe try out some specific vegan products that Green Monday carries, then that's also a connection that we can make with them. And with Claudia's idea with influencer and social media, that's definitely a great idea. We do also want to involve social media and working with influencers and celebrities as much as we can within our outreach. A couple of, I think it was on World Vegan Day at the beginning of the month, we had a live Instagram chat with a vegan influencer based in Malaysia, Davina Vegan, just to chat about our work and how she has been using her platform to bring more vegan options in Malaysia that are using local ingredients and that are, you know, accessible and cheap so that people can try easily. So yeah, having more discussions like that, working with these sort of influencers and more celebrities, definitely a good idea.
Great, thank you so much. So we've got time for some Q&A. We've had a few questions in the chat box. If anybody has any questions, please do post them in the chat and we'll try to get to them all. First, we've got a question from Kaho, and she asks, you mentioned you've worked in several countries in South Asian countries. I wonder what culturally specific challenges you have faced when pushing corporations and institutions to adopt more plant-based options in those countries that you've worked in.
So with the Southeast Asian countries that I've worked at so I'm based in Vietnam. So my work started with HSI at the beginning of 2016, has predominantly been in Vietnam, but then we started to do a little bit more work in Singapore, in Malaysia, and just starting in Japan. In terms of cultural, there are definitely a lot of different cultural characteristics depending on the country. But one thing that I like about our program is that we can shape it in a way that doesn't really clash with any specific culture, because I think any country would be interested and would like to do something for sustainability, for the environment, for our health, and for the animals. So the way that we approach institutions, no matter which country, is just to keep our message very specific on these key components and not touch or not go into any sensitive area in terms of culture. But if I could give a very easy example, that would be, so for example, in Vietnam, is very popular, like veganism and vegetarianism are something that people are very well aware of, mostly because of the religious reason. A lot of Vietnamese, I think more than 60% are Buddhist or follow Buddhism. So they eat vegetarian or vegan at least once or twice a month. So when we talk about our plant-based program, a lot of people, because in Vietnamese, the Vietnamese word for vegetarian or vegan is day, but we try to use the word plant-based instead of the word vegan or vegetarian, just because there are so many pre-existing perceptions that links with religion to these words. So for people who are like, oh, does it mean that it's relating to religion? Are you, encouraging people to practice Buddhism or something? That's not what we are here for. So that's why I would always use certain words and phrases to emphasize on plans forward, positive, sustainability, health, and animal welfare, to kind of step away from this sort of sensitive area that could maybe link to cultural or religious reason, and just to address to people that we are here just to promote for more plant-based options as replacements for all of these reasons mentioned above.
Great, thank you very much. And talking of sensitive areas, we have a question from Sheet Kaki from Nepal, who says, I see a lot of vegans and animal rights activists call out people who are vegan for reasons that are not to do with animals. And in your presentation, you said, we can talk to people, try to convince people about plant-based diets in terms of health and environmental reasons. And in my experience, people have been moved to adopt plant-based diets for sustainability, environmental reasons. But is there a risk that we offend or turn away people who are really put animals at the forefront of their activism and identity?
Thank you for this question. I think it's a constant dilemma that I have, and I think for those of you who work for the movement and want to get as many people to try vegan food and plant-based food as possible, I totally understand that as vegans, we feel like it's almost like it's unfair to not mention the suffering of animals when we talk to institutions or we talk to anyone. But just from what I have experienced over the past almost more than 7 years that I've been working in the movement, it's just that sometimes it does a little bit more harm than good. People tend to sometimes shut down or don't want to continue the discussion, or just as soon as they hear that it's a vegan who is promoting for ending animal suffering, there's so much pre-existing perceptions, and just that they feel like they are being judged, and they just don't want to even be open to try vegan options, or just to have one meal a week being vegan. So I think in an ideal world, maybe 100 years from now, when everyone would be vegan, that would be amazing. But at least right now, I think the more sustainable way, and that is okay, in my opinion, is just to get people to try vegan and plant-based foods for whatever reason that interests them, either it being for their health or for the environment, or maybe for social justice or poverty, anything, just to get them to enter, like opening that door to let them enter. And then, you know, we can nudge them into, yeah, you know, we should also do this for the animals, look at these, you know, cruel animal agriculture, factory farming practices, but maybe depending on the person, not to shove, let's say, I would say shove that message to everyone since the beginning, because I think, yeah, sometimes it can just make people shut down, and then that kind of defeats the purpose of us wanting to get the message out there to more people.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's a difficult area, but ties into what we are trying to achieve with this conference as well, is kind of talk to people applying different approaches, so we understand that we're all working towards the same thing and have similar goals. Thank you. So we have a question from Kate from the Philippines, who asks, how does HSI ensure continued and increasing commitments from the institutions, such as schools and corporations, that you engage with?
So when we work with the schools or institutions, we always check in on them every 3 months, just to see if let's say if one school is doing a plant-based day per week, if they are still doing it, if if there's been any feedback from the students, do they need additional support? Like, can we offer them more training, or can we offer them more seminars? So we always make a sort of like a follow-up plan with all of the institutions that we're working with, to touch base with them every quarter. At the very beginning, I would touch base with them almost every month, just to see how things are going, if they need us to come in and do more talks or anything. And then once I could see that the program is going sustainably, then we would check in on them every 3 months also, because we need to get the procurement data from them. For those that are willing to share their data with us, then we would need, we will get in touch with them as well to touch base, and just to make sure that we can get the data, so that we can measure our impact. And for those that are, let's say, for example, starting with no vegan options, and they don't feel comfortable yet doing one fully plant-based day a week, and maybe they will start with just adding some plant-based options, then yes, we will continue, you know, following up and working with them until the point that we can make sure they are actually replacing animal-based options with plant-based ones. So it's always an ongoing partnership.
Great, that's really good to hear, and interesting how you plan keeping up the advice. And so we've got maybe time for a few more questions. We have a question from Junko from Japan. It says, how is HSI funded? And I might just add on to that question. If you approach an organization or institution and they push back and say, well, it's just too expensive for us, you know, we have tight budgets, and you know, changing to your proposals is just not, we just can't afford it. How do you approach? So how are you funded, and then how do you approach organizations' budgets?
Okay, so in terms of funding, with similar to, I would say, a lot of other NGOs, we are funded by individuals such as any one of you who would like to donate to HSI work every month. So we have a lot of supporters around the world. I think the last time I checked, the numbers was more than 3 million supporters that currently fund our programs. Either it's because they care about the wildlife program or the companion animal program or our farm animal program. So yes, well, we have supporters around the world funding our work. And then the other part of the funding comes from larger donors who want to see specific movements, specific things being done. So let's say, for example, we would have like a donor that wants to see more vegan, more plant-based options in specific countries in Southeast Asia region, and then we would have like a proper plan to carry that out. So yeah, so mainly we are funded by these two groups of funding. And then with George, with your questions about if we ever get any pushback from institutions about whether a program like this could be expensive, usually we don't, because we come in offering all of these things free of charge. So for example, we offer all of the blame-based training for our partners completely free of charge. You know, we pay our consultant chefs to come in and work with them. They only need to support us with, you know, the venue, which is their kitchen, and the time of the chefs, and sometimes with the ingredients, but that's usually not a lot. And in terms of having more plant-based options, most of the time it's cheaper with the ingredients than comparing to animal-based ingredients. So all in all, that's usually not something that we have a problem with. But yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think if there aren't any more questions, we are pretty much just on time. So thank you, Trang, so much for sharing all this information about your really inspiring work. And thank you very much to all the attendees who've joined, and you know, for all the questions as well.